The cost of college has been a huge issue across our country, with high tuition rates forcing millions of students to leave school saddled with a whole bunch of debt. Now, 2 Michigan schools are jacking up tuition next year by a big margin and even giving up state money to do it.
Oakland University's Board of Regents voted yesterday to raise tuition by 8.5% for the upcoming year. The school says that will bring in an extra $12 million of tuition revenue. The school's president says Oakland's tuition is still, quote, below the market and near the bottom of our state's public universities, but Oakland isn't alone. Last month, Eastern Michigan also jacked up tuition for the upcoming year, raising rates by 7.8%. That school says it will bring in an extra $10 million.
Now, because they raised their rates by more than 3.2% set by the legislature, the schools agree to voluntarily give up state money. Oakland will lose $1.2 million in state aid. Eastern Michigan will lose $1 million.
And after that news came down, Oakland University students hit Twitter expressing outrage. Some saying this is a hike they just can't afford and that Oakland just wants more money.
Joining us now to talk about these big tuition hikes, Lou Glazier, the president of Michigan Future. Now, obviously this is a sign the state perhaps is not giving enough incentive, because the colleges are absolutely willing to say, yeah, we'll throw away your $1 million because we're going to make $10 million.
Yeah, although I think probably, obviously for the kids, this is, for the students, this is bad news. I think from the university standpoint, though, they are trying to balance the need for a quality education, which costs money, and having the lowest cost possible. So I think the big picture of all this is that when my generation went to college, the boomers, the state paid 70% of the tuition and I paid 30%. Today, the state is government, taxpayers are paying 20%, kids are paying 80%. And the main reason for that shift has been a decade of state budget cuts. So if there's a fix for this problem, it is the state reinvesting in higher education, not these marginal incentives to do this or do that. That's the big problem at the moment, is that the state has not made higher education a priority.
Well, when these hikes happen, the burden, as you said, shifts to the students rather than the state's taxpayers. But shouldn't students shoulder that responsibility if they're the ones attending the school?
Yeah, well, so the reason why, so the answer is it needs to be both. There needs to be some contribution from the students, because they get big gains from going to college, getting more education. The big picture news of all this is the single best predictor of an individual's per capita income over a lifetime is whether or not they have a college degree. So even though tuition is high, it's still a terrific investment. But it is also true that the whole community benefits when we're more educated. There's a direct correlation now between the state's per capita income and how many people have a 4-year degree. That's why it needs to be split between taxpayers and the individual student.
And you know, you hear from the taxpayers pretty immediately on this kind of subject, and they say, well, don't raise our taxes to pay for schools, so these schools need to cut their spending. I mean, it's the same story everywhere. Taxpayers saying the schools need to just do a better job of spending what they have.
Yes. So you could make a much stronger case for that if the cost of running the universities was going up exponentially, was out of control. The reality is there's been study after study after study, both here and across the country, that universities' spending is not going up. What's happening is this cost shifting away from the state paying for tuition to students paying for tuition. So costs are not going up very fast. It's tuition that's going up, and it's going up because of the disinvestment.
All right, Lou Glazier, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
All right, still heading